I just spoke to 300 students in Chelmsford, and the lads at this school were asking me, who is T-Bone? T-Bone came to my door one day. He was so big he completely blocked the sunlight out. Almost 6.5 foot, former Marine, trained to kill, seen action in South America. He only had his pants on, so I could see his entire body literally covered in scars. Not little scars, like horseshoe sized scars, massive scars. I mean, this guy was so big. His bicep was about as big as my head. When I first saw him walking across the yard, he looked like something out of a Conan movie. And because of the gang rules of racial separation in prison, I wouldn't have gone up and spoke to him directly because he was a black guy and I was a white guy. But he came to my cell to talk to me because he knew I had my blog, John's Jail Journal. I was writing about prisoners, helping them get pen pals and get books sent in from people around the world and stuff like that. So he came in my cell that day with just his pants on, all these scars, and I started asking about the scars. Every single scar was a different life and death prison fight story, ultimate prison gladiator. But not only was he standing up for himself, he was stopping the raping of the young people coming in. Can you imagine, in this cutthroat environment where nobody's helping anybody, T-Bone was going in and smashing these rapists, helping these young people he didn't even know for no reward whatsoever. So obviously the guy's got a big heart. Now he's still inside and he writes to me every couple of weeks, and even to this day he's like looking out for the more vulnerable prisoners. Vice magazine recently ran his story. They ran it a couple of years ago and they ran it again this year. If you're interested in that, Google T-Bone, the vigilante prisoner who beats up rapists. Something along those lines is the title. So I'm going to read you the latest letter T-Bone sent to me. Can you imagine how dangerous it is for guys who steal in this place? There's always those who think they can do whatever. This jerk came to my cell and tried to steal my stamps and toothpaste and even my shoes. I threw him out by the back of his neck. Now this is where it gets crazy. He went next door and took the guy's ID. He went to the inmate's store and got the guy's store order. Came back to the building and tried to act like he did nothing wrong. Basically, he stole another prisoner's ID card, and prisoners are allowed to buy so many items from the inmate store each week. You order it through the commissary. This is like $20, $30 a week, peanut butter. You know, you're starving in there and you're really relying on your store to supplement your food needs. So this guy went next door and robbed a guy's ID and then stole his store using his ID. This is such a huge no-no in prison. There's nothing worse than a jailhouse thief. Alright, so the guy next door found out what he had done and almost the whole yard wanted to kill him. They wanted his ass anyway. There's a hierarchy in the prison. If you're a snitch, if you're a sex offender, if you're a jailhouse thief, anything like this, you know, prison punk, you're at the bottom of that hierarchy and you're going to get brutalized by the rest of the guys on the yard. So I told the guy he stole from to let him go. So basically T-Bone is now intervening to save this guy's arse. They took the guy to the service centre and off the yard. So basically T-Bone intervened and saved this guy's arse, even though he tried to steal stuff from T-Bone. Now this is T-Bone rising above the situation and showing by example, you know, what a good guy he is. Man, there are some crazy people in these places, always doing things that show they need help. The system is designed to warehouse instead of helping people to change. We are the difference makers. The old me would have kicked the crap out of him. But now I see how we are influenced to think negatively by evil. That kind of thinking becomes a culture, and it's time to break the cycle. So T-Bone is laying some of the responsibility down on the prison for this guy being so desperate and not having any help and stealing from other guys. I mean, I never heard of such a charitable opinion of a jailhouse thief, and a lot of people would probably disagree with that and say the guy does deserve to be smashed. But T-Bone's done almost 30 years now, and I think he's just, you know, he's sick of all this, all the violence and the chaos that just seems to continue day after day in these places. It's really sad. So I saw T-Bone in action myself back in when I was in prison in Tucson back around 2006, and I'd actually been sweated by a couple of guys. I had a bad cellmate who was threatening me. He didn't like me because I was a fresh fish, a new prisoner, and he wanted an older prisoner with him, who's someone who's been around, because he wanted to do illegal tattooing and shooting heroin all day, and he thought I was cramping his style because I was a bit of a nerd, just wanting to read and write. So he got one of his mates to attack me, and that mate had a cellmate, these two cellmates, two pretty big guys. They were biker gang guys, and T-Bone was clowning with the cellmate, not the guy who attacked me, the cellmate, who's called Cannonball. So I asked T-Bone to put this story in his own words, and here's the story about his altercation with Cannonball, which does not end very well for Cannonball. I mean, this Marine can fight. I woke up one morning in 2006 to a sunny day, expecting to be left alone by all of the dopies and wannabes. But in prison there's always those who take kindness for weakness and mellowness as softness. Why? Because they have messed up thinking, to put it mildly. Shaun knows my code. Don't put your hand or mouth on another man unless you are absolutely sure. When I say mouth, I mean speaking ill about him. I did a lot of joking with a man called Cannonball. I should have known that he was using me to promote his image of being a tough guy. He did bulldog quite a few guys out of dope. That means bully them out of drugs. And I personally didn't care. But when he forced a youngster to give him a blowjob, it made me sick. Then he went too far and cornered the kid into giving him his store, his commissary, and threatening his family with a bunch of lies. T-Bone doesn't like it when predators are sweating young people to give blowjobs. I reacted by cussing him. He didn't like it and went on the rampage. It was funny watching him try to motivate someone to take me on. So Cannonball didn't want to go one-on-one with T-Bone. He was trying to do an okie doke, trying to get another prisoner to attack T-Bone, to do his dirty work, using him as a cat's paw basically. It didn't work, so he came up to me and the youngster and some other guy and said, "I heard you're a rat." Now Cannonball is calling T-Bone a snitch. You call someone a snitch, or a bitch, or a punk ass bitch, that's automatic fighting words. So this guy's now really pushing T-Bone. T-Bone says he knew I had every right to smash him, but he was counting on my spirituality. He said, "I'm not telling you, period." T-Bone asked him who was the snitch, and Cannonball saying he's not going to give that person's name up. Now here's the catch. I made a choice, and God knows I didn't have to do anything, yes. Cannonball called me something in here that's worse than being called a punk, but I thought of the youngster standing there looking at me wanting help. I told the youngster to go to his cell and pray. I followed Cannonball to his cell and asked him who called me a rat. "Get out of my house," he yelled. He had a dirty needle in his hand and he had hepatitis C. So some prisoners with hepatitis C, potentially deadly disease, can eat your liver up slowly. It costs 30,000-40,000 a year to treat it. If the prison treated everybody with hepatitis C, it would bankrupt the entire system. So many people have got hepatitis C, so it's very hard to get treated for it. Potentially could be a death sentence in the long run. And Cannonball holding a syringe, threatening to stab T-Bone and give him hepatitis C. I said, "Cannonball, there's going to be blood for all of the crap you're pulling here. I'm going to check your story out to see what's up." I went to 3 guys and each one said it wasn't me who people were talking about. So I went back to Cannonball and said, "Who said what?" He got mad, cussed me out loud enough for several people to hear, and went to get a weapon. So, and in Tucson back then, guys had shanks hidden, like in books in the library, shanks hidden, buried on the rec field, or maybe somewhere in the cell. So T-Bone, he's going off, he obviously knows where the weapons are. Cannonball's going off where the weapons are, and he's going to grab something. So T-Bone now, he says, I tried to let it go, but I made a choice to stand up, so I did. I went back to his cell, he wasn't there. I went to C-Pod, and he was going into Bud's cell. Now Bud is the guy I had a beef with. I just got to a medium security yard. Bud says, I've got a padlock in a sock, I can smash your brains in while you're asleep, I can kill you whenever I want. This guy was a piece of work. He was a serial home invader torturer, breaking into houses and taking hammers to people's kneecaps. I read some of his paperwork, and he held a kangaroo court on a sex offender in a cell when he was out in transport, getting transported to court one day, and he stabbed this sex offender a bunch of times, and then everybody who watched it, he said, if any of you say anything, you saw me do this, I'm going to pop your eyeball out with a knife, a shank, and I'm going to eat your eyeball. So this is the kind of character this Bud guy is. So I followed him up there and heard him, Cannonball, disrespecting me to Bud. I went and said, you need to stop molesting the youngster, the guy who's giving the blowjobs from, getting the blowjobs from. He said, Cannonball said, what are you, his daddy? Then his cellmate came in and he really started to act tough. His cellmate is Ken. This is the big biker gang dude. They're both big biker gang dudes. Ken is the one who Bud got to attack me just when I was going to a visit with my mum and dad who'd flown 5,000 miles to visit me for Christmas. He comes up and bashes me in the back when in a crowded corridor, and I couldn't even see him coming at me. And you got to hit back, even though if you can get arrested in prison for fighting and they can add time onto your sentence, but if you don't hit back, you're basically going to be punked out. You're going to be getting used for sexual services and cleaning people's toilets. And that's, so, you know, I hit back, but it didn't end very well for me. I got smashed by Ken. So in the cell now we've got Cannonball, we've got Ken, my enemy, from smashing me, and we've got their two cellmates, Cannonball and Ken, and we've also got Bud, who was one of my cellmates, the guy who threatened me with the padlock in his sock and really sweated me and got Ken to attack me. So T-Bone now is in the cell with these three guys. I mean, T-Bone's a big guy, you know, but these guys are pretty big guys as well. Cannonball and Ken are big. Bud, not that big, but look, he's got those dead eyes. You know, you just look at this guy, he's a complete and utter psychopath. So T-Bone said, man, you've been given several opportunities to stop and leave, but you just won't quit. Reading me, Cannonball tried to kick me in my privates, but he didn't know who he was messing with. Wham, wham, wham! Just that quick it was over. Right hand, left hand, right hand. He was on the floor out cold. T-Bone knocked this guy out so fast, bam! It took the other two dudes in there by surprise. So Ken was about to do something, about to jump on T-Bone, but he looked me in the eye and saw something he didn't like, and it wasn't fear. I gave him the chance to sit back down, and he did. So Ken backed down. He saw crazy look in T-Bone's eyes, realized this Marine was going to kick his ass, and he didn't want to take that on. You know, these guys who bully people, they look for vulnerable people. When it comes to fighting someone who's as deadly as T-Bone, you know, the truth comes out about how tough these guys really are. Cannonball was on the concrete mumbling, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, and I left. Cannonball was hospitalised. I was locked down for 2 months, and was it worth it? Yes. To help someone who was weaker, and no, because I could have gotten more time added to my sentence, because the guy told the guards who did what, and I was fortunate the guards didn't like the guy, so I didn't get charges. But hear me, this is a choice I made to help others. I could have walked away from him saying something about me, because everyone knew what I'm all about, and his words had no weight. And they still don't, because I'm outnumbered 30-1, but God has my back. T-Bone is deeply religious. Some points in these fights, he's been held down. Multiple assailants, smashing him in the head with river rocks and socks. Eventually he's losing his life, but he believes that God has his back, and that gives him the mental strength to get through it. Now, there was another guy in the cell, and this is how I know all this was true, because my cellmate, Long Island, a white dude, was in the cell when this went down. And Long Island gave me a blow-by-blow account of exactly what happened. So I'm going to add some of my own details that I wrote to my blog. When this fight occurred, I was in my cell in the building adjoining Bud's. My cellmate Long Island revealed the details, which I couldn't blog because it would have caused trouble at the time. One of T-Bone's punches, bam, detached one side of Cannonball's lip. His lip ended up dangling down his chin, and Cannonball's head hit the toilet with such force that water splashed onto the wall, changing some of the wall back to its original cream colour. When Cannonball regained consciousness, Ken said, "God damn, Selly, you've been foobarred. Fucked up beyond all recognition." They dressed Cannonball in a hat, shirt, jacket and sunglasses to get him back to his cell undetected by the guards. But as his lip was hanging off him, and he had a squashed, broken nose, a broken cheek and a broken jaw, the guards spotted it quite easily and he had to be hospitalised. For his own safety, when he returned from hospital days later, he was rehoused to another yard. Yeah, and I saw him. He was wearing a neck brace and his face was swollen and black and blue. He looked like a train had hit him. Yeah. So that is the power of the mighty T-Bone. He's a good man to have on your side when he's in prison. I've set up a Facebook page for him at the request of the students 5 years ago in Liverpool. They said, let's start a page for T-Bone on Facebook, T-Bone Appreciation Society. I'll put the link in the information box below this video on YouTube. But if you go on Facebook and just put in T-Bone Appreciation Society, it should come up. There's almost 10,000 students on it now. T-Bone's letters, I post them to the wall if you want to read his letters, how he's doing. And T-Bone said the highlight of his day is reading the questions and comments from the UK students. And he hopes when he gets released, he can get his passport and come out here and do some talks in the schools with me. He wouldn't even have to talk. T-Bone walks in the building. This guy, almost 6.5 foot. People just see this guy and they're just in awe, complete and utter awe of his size. But he is a good, engaging speaker and he's got amazing stories. I have so many T-Bone stories, T-Bone fight stories from back in the day, especially life and death fights. I'm going to keep putting them out there and I'll put some more on this channel, on my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I'm at 12,000 subscribers now, recently went over 10,000. I'm going to have to post another video thanking everybody for who subbed my channel, especially all you guys who've come over from True Geordie Podcast and After Prison Show. Cheers from London. Take care out there.